Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel. My name is Sean Dobbs, and on this channel, I'm going to be talking about lots of different things, but primarily it'll be focused around innovation and sort of variations of innovation. So, innovation, business strategy, entrepreneurship, mindset, all the kind of things that go with it. So, there's a series of videos coming, but this is the first one. So I kind of thought long and hard about how to kick it all off, how to start with the whole process, and primarily the driver behind doing this is because I'm really passionate about innovation. I love innovation. I always have since forever, as far back as I can remember. Really love it, and it's something I've had to work really hard at. Some people that know me now always say to me, "Oh, you're naturally creative, or it's easy for you." It's definitely it wasn't easy, and it took years and years and years of sort of development and progress and everything else. So there's a number of different avenues, like I say, I could have taken this, but I wanted to start off at a high level to kind of set the scene and obviously put everything in context. So right on cue, I'm lining myself up here. This first video is going to be about context and creating solutions in context. A number of years back, I seen a post online, and it said basically ideas are worthless, execution is king. And the moment I saw that, I was temporarily enraged. So I was thinking, what ideas are for me. Ideas are magic. Creation is genuinely magic. It's something new, and some people might scoff and laugh at that a little bit. But for me, if you look at the likes of Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or Apple or any of those, or Dyson, any of those guys and girls that have came up with truly game-changing products that don't just they're not just another thing. They actually change our way of life. And it's that sort of profound, and that can be that not extreme, is maybe not the right word, but it can be that monumental change. So for me, that is kind of the you know the tip top of innovation. Like that's what innovation is for me, and that's what creativity is for me. So one of my kind of bugbears is that innovation gets banded about a lot and it gets misused and misrepresented, which really means it becomes devalued, and it kind of can sometimes get a bad rap and get a bad name. If you're working on something and you say, "Oh well, we need to design something new, or we need to come up with a new idea," sometimes it can be a resounding a groan that passes around the room, kind of going, "Here we go, there goes the budget and the time." But that shouldn't be what it is. It shouldn't be if it's done right. It shouldn't be that. And so, like I say, there's a series of talks coming. But first off, I want to go back to my original point that I made. So, where ideas are worthless and execution is king. With a bit of hindsight, and once I got over my initial kind of upset at it, I realized that the post was actually correct. That ideas alone aren't worthless, but they can be worthless. As you know, everyone has ideas. Everyone watching this has some harebrained scheme or some idea or some business or something that they're working on or they've thought of, and we've all done it. We've all been there. We're all probably still doing it. And the vast majority of those ideas amount to nothing and never really go anywhere or do anything. And we're always getting around to them. And we're always going to do them and never do them, or sometimes we set out to do them and get bored or whatever. So that's, I suppose, really validates that point that um, ideas aren't worthless, but ideas can be worthless. Without execution, they're worthless. Basically, is kind of what the post is saying. But I suppose like it's not the full picture either. So execution alone isn't isn't king. So execution, yeah, you need to execute absolutely. If you don't execute, nothing ever happens. So yeah, you need to take action. You need to make things happen. But I put up a post a few weeks back. I kind of something I'd thought over for quite a while, and I'm quite a deep thinker. So I contemplate things, think of them, play with them back and forward different ways in my mind, to try and understand them better and to try and get to the core sort of message or the core common themes and everything, and try and link those together. So kind of thinking on that for quite a while. What I've kind of the realization I've came to is that basically, like I said, I put up a post a couple of weeks back where I said, if execution is king, then context is the kingdom. So what I mean by that is that I've been through the process many times of creating new products, developing them, doing everything right, dealing with really difficult, complex problems, going the whole way through the process, doing R&D, doing everything, doing the research, the market research, everything. We know what the competitors, all that good stuff, all the stuff that you need to do, and developing a genuinely brilliant product, and a real step forward in terms of um, performance, reduce cost, reduce maintenance. All the sort of the boxes were ticked, and you know very few of those were sold. There was a couple of them sold, and but basically that drove me then back to understand. I've done that a few times. I've been through that cycle a couple of times, and it's really disheartening. And what I found from that was that basically, once I got through that a few times, I said, "Listen, I'm not going to do this anymore. I can't keep putting all my effort and time and everything into that to ultimately to amount to nothing or very little at least." So in that instance, I had the idea, I executed, didn't make any mistakes, but the context wasn't. I was going to say the context wasn't right. The context wasn't understood. So and back to my earlier point of if execution is king, then context is a kingdom. You can have a king, but if the king is in a tiny kingdom with two other people in it and no money or no power or whatever makes the kingdom great, um, then it's worthless. Like, it's not worthless, but it's not really it's not really something great. It's not worth putting a lot of time and effort and everything into. Whereas if the kingdom is 600 people, 6,000 people, 600,000 people, then that's a different story. And then the execution, as in being the king, all these analogies here. So being the king becomes much more worth it. And a king of 600,000 people versus a king of six people, it's not comparable. So I would apply that then again to the market. So what I've done now in my approach, I turned from being an engineer to sort of much more sort of commercial minded person, um, so that innovation can happen. Ultimately, is what I've done. So I've done it for selfish reasons. Um, so where I start now is that you have to understand the market. You have to find the need first, and it's not enough to find the need. You have to then validate the need. So does the need exist? Where does it exist? How many people does it exist for? Is it a real problem? People can have a need, but and everyone wants a solution to it, but what is it worth? Is it worth the time and effort and money? So is it worth someone has a problem? And engineers tend to go down. Engineers get excited by problems, as sad as that sounds, and equally they get excited by solutions. But engineers want to go from problem to solution as quickly as possible. And I'll not say the first thing that comes into their mind, but it's definitely not the 10th. It's probably the third or fourth thing that comes into their mind. And there'll be a bit of maybe collaboration or discussion between other engineers, and they'll settle on that, and it'll be get it done as quickly as possible. And no other questions asked really. But like I say, as an engineer, as a creator, as a whatever, there's a responsibility there to ask the question, dig more deeply, I suppose, and understand the context. Context is key. You have to understand the context, otherwise you're just spinning your wheels. So, what is the problem? Where is the customer? What is the cost of their problem? Is there a problem? Yeah, it's a problem, and yeah, I'm an engineer. Great, I got excited. I fixed the solution. I've come up with a solution. Let's go gung ho and develop it and put all this money and time and effort in and everything else. But you have to validate how much you're going to sell it for. Understand the whole ROI, the return of investment. Understand um, who has a problem, where is the problem, is the market growing, is it declining, is it in the Middle East, is it in Europe, is there legislation coming around it, is the cost associated with whatever the problem is at the minute going to escalate, or is it going to decline, or is it going to happen in a predictable manner, or is there something that could come left field to basically wipe the market overnight? So you could spend a couple of years developing the fantastic, like an absolutely brilliant first class engineering solution. And if it is a complex thing, it can take a couple of years. Ideally, most people like to do it quicker, but realistically, you're talking 1 to 2 years for any level of solution. So you don't want to get to the end of the development for the market to be gone, or for some legislation to have changed, or for something else to have happened, that basically wipes the whole thing out. So that's kind of, I suppose, something that really needs to be considered. So you really need to understand the context, and so that's kind of the market context of the solution. So that's understanding that it really is needed, and that when I make something and I sort of put my heart and soul and brain and everything into developing this world class solution, um, that I'm going to sell 600,000, or I'm going to sell 6,000. I'm not going to sell six and done. So that's basically pointless, it's worthless. So that's sort of one aspect of context, and that's, I suppose, in terms of innovation and creativity and product development and everything. That's, for me, that's ground zero. That's where everything has to start, and um, that can take a while. And again, a lot of engineers, not well, a number of engineers I've worked with and met and discussed things with, and I'm an engineer by trade as well. I'm many things, but an engineer is one of them. Um, so they typically don't want to know. Well, not typically. That's maybe not fair. Most engineers don't want to know. They kind of say, "Listen, you go figure out what it is you want me to create. Just tell me and I create it." I actually don't really want to know, which for me personally I don't really understand, because I want to know. I want to know that when I make something, it's going to bring value, it's going to bring benefit, um, and that it's going to be, or it at least has the potential to be really successful, really popular, help many people. So I do care about the context. I didn't realize I cared about the context until I realized it was a thing. But now it's kind of, for me, like I say, it's ground zero. So that's kind of the wider context. Then once you've got that and you're happy and you've understand all the market drivers, legislation, everything, that box is ticked. Okay, we're good to go. This is definitely fantastic opportunity, fantastic need, fantastic everything. The commercial drivers are there. They're only going to get better. The market's starting or emerging or established, but not dominated. So that's box is ticked. So everything's lining up. So the next thing they have to understand is, again, context, but it's the context of the solution. So again, a lot of times different businesses will maybe do some of these steps, or maybe all the steps I've listed so far, correctly, and get to the right need, the right time, and the right maybe price point, we'll say. But they don't dig deeply enough into the context of the solution. So this is kind of most, I suppose, a telltale sign of this, that the circumstance or the scenario is that you're going into a market where you have a solution, your solution, which may either be fully developed or in development phase, and you find the customer, you find lots of customers, you know the market's there, you know it's good. You try and sell the solution to the customer, and the customer wants, sorry, yeah, the customer wants this. They want a solution to the problem. They're burning money. They're like, they really need this solution. They really want a problem fixed, and you're saying, brilliant, this is perfect. I've got it. As a salesperson, as a commercial person, you're saying, I've got it. I've got the solution. I've found your problem. I found my customer. Perfect. This is it. I've got a sale. Here's your solution. And they're saying, yeah, okay, yeah. Tell me more about it. But they're not. You haven't got them. They're not clicking with it. Um, that's a telltale sign that you've got most things right, but your solution hasn't been developed in the context, in the true context of the problem. It's been either a product that you've had from somewhere else or for some other purpose, that you've basically tried to diversify markets, diversify the product from a pre-existing market into a new market, with minimal adaptation. And it kind of does the job, and the customer definitely has the problem, and the need's definitely there, and the money's definitely there from their perspective, that as in they have the money to buy it. But they don't know why, but they're not sold because it hasn't, they know in their heart that it doesn't tick all their boxes. It's close enough and they really want a solution, but it's not close enough. It's almost, but it's not quite there. So those times can be, a very intelligent lady said to me one time, don't ask why you struggle to sell things, ask why the customer struggles to buy them. So which is, again, is a sort of fantastic flip in perspective. So you really have to understand the context that the solution has been applied in, and the constraints and the variables in that, and, like, I suppose, really live and breathe what the customer's going through day to day. And the customer ultimately doesn't really care what the solution is. I say that kind of potentially half contradict myself. The customer typically doesn't care if it's black, if it's white, if it's green, it's purple, if it has six sticky bitey bits. They don't really care too much. That's kind of the nip and tuck side of things. They just want to clear. They want to look at it as a process, and they want to see a clear benefit. They want to see it goes in here, it does this, it creates the magic for me, completely solves my problem, doesn't give me any new problems that, or doesn't give me any kind of fears or unknowns, and I've clear benefit and my problem's clearly solved, and it's just, it makes me feel more and fuzzy inside. So that's kind of the two different aspects to context. But like I say, to kind of reiterate the whole thing again, context is key. Context is the kingdom. So to start from at the very start of anything, you have to validate the context. You have to understand the market, and you have to understand the end user, truly understand the end user, and truly understand the problem. And don't try and reapply existing problems, or sorry, reapply existing solutions, I should say, to new problems. If it fits, yeah, absolutely. And if the customer's happy enough with that, absolutely. And if it's kind of explained that this is what it is, and also, but if you're going after a new market and going hard, and it's really, really an exciting market, and there's lots of potential and opportunity and everything else, it's worth a new product. It's worth a new solution. It's worth the right solution. And I know it takes time and money. And again, something I'll touch on later. If you get the wrong people in there, and it's not to say bad people, there's very few bad people, or very people set it to do anything less than their best. Most people do genuinely try to do their best, but it is a complex game. It really is, and because of in terms of creativity and new product development, it can be a complex game. So therefore, it can be hard to understand, and it is complex. So it's difficult. You need quite a skill set, quite a diverse skill set as well. And there's lots of places to hide, and there's lots of excuses that can easily be used, and either genuinely or disingenuinely, whatever it may be. So it's not to say that anyone's doing anything intentionally, but it can be very, very tricky. So as I go through these sort of series of videos here, I'm going to dive deeper and deeper and deeper, and I'm going to go right back to the very, very start of the creation process. So where creativity comes from, how it starts, how it develops, how you have to flick between the very creative out there mindset, and then flick between very practical. How are we going to make this? How many bolts are in this? Can I buy that type of bolt? Can I buy that type of seal? What material is going to be made from? And if that's not working out, and if that's not viable, and if the solutions aren't there, you have to then flick back to the creative stage again. So I'm going to go through all those things in future videos as we come through the series. So this is just a little bit of an introduction, and like I say, this sort of set the scene. So thanks for listening, folks, and love to hear any comments, and also please subscribe to my channel, and continue to follow me and continue to engage. And yeah, look forward to talking more and sharing more videos. Thanks.